Lisa had always believed that home was where people accepted you just as you are. For 8 long years, that home had been Grace Community Church on Maple Street. Every Sunday morning, she would wake up at 6:30, make breakfast for her 9-year-old daughter Sophie, and get them both ready for the 9 o'clock service. The church wasn't fancy. The carpet was worn thin in places, and the wooden pews creaked when people shifted in their seats. But to Lisa, it was perfect. It was the place where she had found peace after the worst period of her life, when Sophie's father walked out on them without even a goodbye note. Lisa worked 2 jobs to keep their small apartment and put food on the table. During the week, she was a nursing assistant at Riverside Care Center, helping elderly residents with their daily needs. The work was hard on her back and emotionally draining, but she loved making a difference in people's lives. On weekends, she cleaned houses in the nicer part of town, scrubbing floors and organizing closets for families who could afford help. Money was always tight. Lisa shopped at thrift stores and clipped coupons like her life depended on it. Sometimes she would lie awake at night, calculating bills in her head and wondering how she would make everything work. But Sunday mornings at Grace Community made all the stress fade away. Pastor Johnson had been leading the church for 15 years, and his warm smile could light up the entire sanctuary. He never made Lisa feel judged for being a single mother. Instead, he often told her how much he admired her strength and dedication to Sophie. His wife, Mrs. Johnson, had become like a mother figure to Lisa, always checking on them and bringing homemade soup when Sophie caught a cold. Lisa threw herself into church activities with the enthusiasm of someone who had finally found where she belonged. She organized the monthly food drives, collecting donations from local grocery stores and sorting them in the church basement. When the youth group needed chaperones for their camping trip, Lisa took vacation days from work to help out. She baked cookies for every church potluck and never missed a single volunteer opportunity. The other church members seemed to appreciate her efforts. Mrs. Patterson, who taught Sunday school, always complimented Lisa on how well-behaved Sophie was. Mr. Rodriguez, the church treasurer, often thanked her for her help with organizing events. Lisa felt like she was part of a real family for the first time since her own parents had passed away in a car accident when she was 22. Sophie loved the church too. She joined the children's choir and had a beautiful singing voice that made Lisa's eyes water with pride every time she performed. Sophie made friends with the other kids and looked forward to Sunday school every week. She would practice her Bible verses at their kitchen table, reading them aloud while Lisa prepared their simple dinners. "Mom, do you think God really hears our prayers?" Sophie asked one evening as they walked home from church. "I think he does, sweetheart," Lisa replied, squeezing her daughter's hand. "Look at all the good people he put in our lives at church." When Pastor Johnson announced during a Sunday service that his daughter Rachel was getting engaged, the entire congregation erupted in applause. Rachel had grown up in the church and was now a successful teacher in the next town over. She was marrying a young man named David, who worked as an engineer. Pastor Johnson's eyes filled with tears of joy as he shared the news. "We're planning the wedding for next spring," Pastor Johnson announced. "And, of course, we hope to celebrate right here with our church family." Lisa immediately raised her hand when Pastor Johnson asked for volunteers to help with the wedding preparations. She had never planned a wedding before, but she was determined to make Rachel's day perfect. This was her chance to give back to the family that had given her so much. Over the next several months, Lisa spent countless hours at the church. She researched flower arrangements and decoration ideas, staying up late on her laptop after Sophie went to bed. She used her connections from cleaning houses to find good deals on wedding supplies. When her car broke down and she couldn't afford repairs, she took the bus to craft stores to pick up ribbons and candles for the reception decorations. Lisa even dipped into the small emergency fund she had been building for Sophie's future. She told herself it was worth it. This wedding was for Pastor Johnson's daughter, the man who had helped her through her darkest days. She wanted everything to be beautiful and memorable. Mrs. Johnson would often find Lisa at the church on weekday evenings, working on centerpieces or polishing the sanctuary's wooden surfaces until they gleamed. "Lisa, honey, you don't have to do all this," she would say gently. "I want to," Lisa would always reply. "Your family has done so much for Sophie and me. This is the least I can do." The weeks leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of activity. Lisa coordinated with the florist, helped address invitations, and even learned how to make fancy napkin folds from watching videos online. She was exhausted from working her regular jobs and then spending hours on wedding preparations. But she had never felt more useful or appreciated. 2 days before the wedding, Lisa was at the church arranging flowers when Rachel stopped by to check on the preparations. "Lisa, this looks incredible," Rachel said, admiring the elegant displays. "You have such a gift for this." Lisa felt her heart swell with pride. "I just wanted it to be perfect for you," she said. "It is perfect," Rachel assured her. "I can't thank you enough for everything you've done." The night before the wedding, Lisa barely slept. She was excited about the celebration and kept going over her mental checklist to make sure she hadn't forgotten anything. She had pressed her best dress, a simple navy blue outfit she had bought at a consignment shop, and found a matching hair ribbon for Sophie. As she lay in bed, Lisa thought about how much her life had changed since finding Grace Community Church. She had gone from feeling lost and alone to being part of something bigger than herself. Tomorrow would be a celebration of love, and she had played a part in making it happen. She felt like she truly belonged somewhere for the first time in years. The next morning, Lisa woke up early and made pancakes for Sophie, a special treat for the wedding day. As they got dressed, Sophie chattered excitedly about seeing Rachel in her wedding dress and hearing the beautiful music during the ceremony. "We're going to have such a wonderful day," Lisa told her daughter, adjusting Sophie's hair ribbon. She had no idea that in just a few hours, her world would come crashing down around her. The morning of Rachel's wedding was absolutely perfect. The sun was shining and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Lisa arrived at Grace Community Church at 7 in the morning, 2 hours before anyone else was expected. She had her arms full of last-minute supplies and a heart full of excitement. The church looked magical. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns across the wooden pews. Lisa had spent the previous evening decorating the sanctuary with white roses and baby's breath, and now everything looked like something from a fairy tale. Lisa went straight to work, making sure every detail was perfect. She adjusted the ribbon on each pew, checked that the altar flowers were positioned just right, and made sure the guest book table had enough pens. Her hands were shaking slightly, not from nervousness but from pure joy. She was so proud of how beautiful everything looked. Sophie helped by carrying small items and straightening the programs that Lisa had folded the night before. "Mom, this is the prettiest wedding ever," Sophie whispered, her eyes wide as she looked around the decorated church. "It really is, honey," Lisa agreed, smoothing down a ribbon that had come loose. As the morning went on, other church members began arriving to help with final preparations. Mrs. Wilson, who was in charge of the music, tested the piano and practiced the wedding march. Mr. Garcia, who would be taking photos, checked his camera equipment. Everyone seemed excited and happy. Lisa noticed that some of the church ladies were whispering among themselves, but she was too busy to pay much attention. She was focused on making sure the flowers looked fresh and that the ceremony would start on time. At 11 o'clock, guests started arriving for the noon ceremony. Lisa watched from the back of the church as families filled the pews. She recognized most of the faces from Sunday services, but there were also many people she didn't know, probably relatives and friends from out of town. Rachel looked absolutely stunning in her wedding dress. It was simple but elegant, with delicate lace sleeves and a long train that flowed behind her like water. Lisa felt tears in her eyes as she watched Pastor Johnson walk his daughter down the aisle. The ceremony was everything a wedding should be, full of love and joy and hope for the future. During the ceremony, Lisa quietly slipped out to the fellowship hall to make final preparations for the reception. The tables looked wonderful with their white tablecloths and centerpieces that Lisa had made herself. The cake, ordered from the best bakery in town, sat on a special table decorated with silk flowers. Lisa worked quickly to set out the punch bowls and arrange the gift table. She wanted everything to be ready when the ceremony ended and guests moved to the reception. This was her moment to shine, to show everyone how much she cared about the church family. Sophie stayed in the sanctuary to watch the rest of the ceremony. Lisa could hear the congregation singing hymns and knew that Rachel and David were probably exchanging rings right about now. Her heart felt so full thinking about how perfect everything was turning out. When the ceremony ended, Lisa heard the joyful sounds of guests congratulating the new couple. She quickly checked her reflection in the fellowship hall window, smoothed her navy dress, and made sure Sophie's hair ribbon was still neat. They had been working hard all morning, but now it was time to celebrate. Lisa and Sophie joined the line of people waiting to congratulate Rachel and David. When it was their turn, Rachel gave Lisa a huge hug. "Lisa, everything is so beautiful," Rachel said, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "Thank you for making this day so special." "It was my pleasure," Lisa replied, feeling like her heart might burst with joy. "You look absolutely gorgeous." As guests began moving into the fellowship hall for the reception, Lisa felt proud watching people admire the decorations. She heard several comments about how lovely everything looked, and she couldn't help but smile. All those late nights and weekend trips to craft stores had been worth it. Lisa and Sophie found seats at a table near the back of the room. Lisa wanted to be close to the kitchen in case anything needed to be fixed or refilled during the reception. Sophie was excited about the cake and kept asking when they would cut it. The reception was in full swing when Lisa noticed Mrs. Henderson, the church treasurer, walking toward their table. Mrs. Henderson was Pastor Johnson's sister and had always been friendly to Lisa, though not as warm as some of the other church members. "Lisa, dear," Mrs. Henderson said as she approached, but her smile seemed forced. "Could I have a word with you?" Lisa stood up, thinking that Mrs. Henderson might need help with something. Maybe they had run out of punch, or perhaps someone had a question about the decorations. But Mrs. Henderson's next words hit Lisa like a physical blow. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding," Mrs. Henderson said, her voice loud enough that people at nearby tables could hear. "The reception is for invited guests only. You've done wonderful work helping with the preparations, but this celebration is for family and close friends." Lisa felt the blood drain from her face. She looked around and noticed that several people were staring at them. The happy chatter of the reception seemed to fade into the background. "I'm sorry. I don't understand," Lisa said quietly, hoping this was some kind of mistake. "Well, dear, you're not exactly family, are you?" Mrs. Henderson continued, her voice still carrying to other tables. "And while we appreciate all your help, this is a private celebration." Sophie looked up at her mother with confused eyes. "Mom, what's happening? Why can't we stay for the cake?" The question from her daughter made everything worse. Lisa felt like the whole room was watching them now. She could see other church members she had worked with for years looking away, pretending not to notice what was happening. Mrs. Patterson, who had always been kind to Sophie in Sunday school, suddenly became very interested in her plate. Mr. Rodriguez, who had thanked Lisa just last week for organizing the food drive, was deep in conversation with someone else. Lisa looked around desperately for Pastor Johnson or his wife, hoping they would step in and clear up this misunderstanding. But Pastor Johnson was busy greeting guests on the other side of the room, and Mrs. Johnson was nowhere to be seen. "Come along, Sophie," Lisa whispered, taking her daughter's hand. She could feel her cheeks burning with embarrassment and her eyes starting to fill with tears. As they walked toward the door, Lisa heard whispered conversation starting up behind them. She caught fragments of words that made her stomach turn. "Inappropriate. Setting a bad example. Single mothers." Sophie started crying as they reached the church entrance. "Mom, why did that lady make us leave? I wanted to see them cut the cake." Lisa knelt down and hugged her daughter tightly, trying to hold back her own tears. "I don't know, sweetheart. I don't know." They walked to their old car in silence. Lisa's hands were shaking so badly she could barely get the key in the ignition. As they drove away from Grace Community Church, Lisa looked in her rearview mirror at the building where she had spent so many happy hours. All those evenings spent making centerpieces. All those weekends organizing events. All those times she had felt like she belonged somewhere. It had all been taken away in less than 5 minutes. The worst part wasn't even her own humiliation. It was the look of confusion and hurt in Sophie's eyes, and the knowledge that her daughter had just learned a terrible lesson about how cruel people could be, even people they trusted and loved. Lisa drove home in stunned silence, wondering how she would ever explain to Sophie why the church family they had loved so much had just thrown them away like yesterday's flowers. The ride home from the church was the longest 15 minutes of Lisa's life. Sophie sat quietly in the passenger seat, still in her pretty dress with the matching hair ribbon, staring out the window with tears streaming down her cheeks. Every few seconds she would sniffle and ask the same question. "Mom, why didn't they want us there?" Lisa's heart broke a little more each time. How do you explain to a 9-year-old that sometimes people you trust and love can turn their backs on you for reasons that don't make any sense? How do you tell your daughter that being a single mother somehow made them unwelcome at a celebration they had worked so hard to make perfect? I don't know, sweetheart, Lisa kept saying. I just don't know. That night, Lisa couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the scene over and over in her mind. The way Mrs. Henderson's voice had carried across the reception hall. The way other church members had suddenly found their plates very interesting. The way Sophie's face had crumpled when she realized they were being asked to leave. Lisa had given 8 years of her life to Grace Community Church. 8 years of volunteering, organizing, cleaning, and contributing whatever she could. She had thought these people were her family. She had been so wrong. By Monday morning, word of what happened at the wedding reception had spread through the church community like wildfire. Lisa found out when Mrs. Garcia from down the street stopped her as she was leaving for work. Lisa, honey, I heard about what happened at the wedding, Mrs. Garcia said, her voice full of sympathy. I can't believe they treated you that way. Lisa was surprised. Mrs. Garcia didn't even go to Grace Community Church. How did you hear about it? My cousin was there, Mrs. Garcia explained. She said it was terrible, the way they made you leave in front of everyone. She was so embarrassed for you. Lisa's stomach dropped. If Mrs. Garcia knew, then everyone in the neighborhood probably knew. The humiliation wasn't contained to just the church members who had witnessed it. Now it was spreading through their entire community. At work that day, Lisa tried to focus on her patients at the nursing home, but her mind kept wandering. Mrs. Thompson, one of her favorite residents, noticed that something was wrong. You seem sad today, dear, Mrs. Thompson said as Lisa helped her with lunch. Is everything okay? Lisa managed a weak smile. Just having a rough week, Mrs. Thompson. Well, remember that rough weeks don't last forever, Mrs. Thompson said kindly. But tough people do. Lisa wished she felt as tough as Mrs. Thompson seemed to think she was. Right now, she felt more fragile than she had in years. The real test came on Sunday morning. Lisa woke up at her usual time and started getting ready for church out of habit. But as she stood in front of her closet looking at her church clothes, she felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. Are we going to church today, Mom? Sophie asked from the doorway. Lisa looked at her daughter's hopeful face and felt her resolve crumble. Yes, we are, she said. We're not going to let anyone make us feel like we don't belong. But the moment they walked through the doors of Grace Community Church, Lisa knew it was a mistake. The conversations seemed to stop when people saw them. Eyes followed them as they made their way to their usual pew. The whispers started almost immediately. During the service, Pastor Johnson delivered a sermon about forgiveness and acceptance. He talked about how Jesus welcomed everyone, regardless of their circumstances. He spoke about the importance of loving your neighbor as yourself. Lisa listened to every word, hoping that Pastor Johnson was addressing what had happened at the wedding. But he never looked in her direction and his words felt empty. If he really believed what he was preaching, why hadn't he stood up for her when his sister was humiliating her in front of the entire congregation? After the service, Lisa tried to act normal. She smiled and said hello to people, but the responses were cold and brief. Mrs. Patterson, who had always been so kind to Sophie, barely acknowledged them. Mr. Rodriguez avoided eye contact completely. The only person who seemed genuinely sorry about what happened was Mrs. Johnson, Pastor Johnson's wife. She pulled Lisa aside after the service. Lisa, I want you to know that I think what happened at the wedding was wrong, Mrs. Johnson said quietly. You've been such a blessing to this church and you didn't deserve to be treated that way. Thank you, Lisa said, feeling tears start to form. That means a lot to me. I've talked to my husband about it, Mrs. Johnson continued. But you know how family can be. Sometimes keeping peace at home is more important than doing what's right. Lisa appreciated Mrs. Johnson's honesty, but it also confirmed her worst fears. Even Pastor Johnson, the man she had looked up to for 8 years, was choosing family politics over standing up for what was right. Over the next few weeks, the treatment at church didn't improve. If anything, it got worse. Lisa overheard fragments of conversations that made her blood run cold. Setting a bad example for the children, one woman whispered to another. Well, you know how those situations usually turn out, another replied. The church needs to maintain its standards, a third added. Lisa realized that the issue wasn't just about the wedding reception. Some church members had apparently been talking about her situation as a single mother for a while, and the wedding incident had given them an excuse to express their disapproval openly. Sophie began asking why they had to sit alone at church now, why her Sunday school friends seemed different, why people who used to smile at them were now so cold. Lisa didn't know how to answer these questions without filling her daughter with the same hurt and anger she was feeling. The breaking point came 3 weeks after the wedding. Lisa had volunteered to help with the monthly food drive, something she had been organizing for years. When she showed up at the church basement with Sophie, Mrs. Henderson was there with a clipboard. "Oh, Lisa," Mrs. Henderson said, looking uncomfortable. "I didn't realize you were planning to help today." "I've been organizing the food drive for 3 years," Lisa replied, confused. "Well, yes, but we've decided to try a different approach this month," Mrs. Henderson said. "Mrs. Peterson is taking over the coordination." Lisa looked around the basement and saw Mrs. Peterson and several other women sorting donations. They all avoided looking at her. "I see," Lisa said quietly. "Well, is there anything else I can help with?" "I think we have everything covered," Mrs. Henderson replied. "But thank you for offering." Lisa took Sophie's hand and walked back to their car. That was the moment she realized that Grace Community Church was no longer their home. They weren't just being excluded from special events anymore. They were being systematically removed from all church activities. "Mom, why didn't they want our help?" Sophie asked as they drove away. "Because some people have small hearts," Lisa said, surprising herself with the bitterness in her voice. That night, Lisa made a decision that felt like ripping off a bandage. She sat Sophie down at their kitchen table. "Sweetheart, we're going to take a break from church for a while," she said. "Because of what happened at the wedding?" Sophie asked. "Because sometimes places that are supposed to make you feel loved make you feel bad instead," Lisa explained. "And we don't need that in our lives." Sophie nodded solemnly. "Will we find a new church?" "Maybe someday," Lisa said. "But for now, it's just going to be you and me." The weeks that followed were some of the loneliest of Lisa's life. Sunday mornings felt empty without the routine of church. The community that had sustained her for 8 years was gone, and she felt adrift. Worse yet, the financial pressures that the church community had sometimes helped with began to mount. When Sophie developed a bad cough that wouldn't go away, Lisa had to take her to the doctor. The visit revealed that Sophie's asthma was getting worse, and she needed a new inhaler and regular checkups. The medical bills arrived just as Lisa's car started making strange noises that probably meant expensive repairs. In the past, someone from church might have known a mechanic who would give her a fair price, or might have offered to help with the costs. Now Lisa was completely on her own. She picked up extra shifts at the nursing home and took on more house cleaning jobs, but it barely covered the new expenses. Some nights she lay awake calculating and recalculating their budget, trying to figure out how to make everything work. The isolation was almost as hard as the financial stress. Lisa realized how much of her social life had revolved around church activities. Without Sunday services, potluck dinners, and volunteer events, she felt cut off from any sense of community. Sophie seemed to be adjusting better than Lisa had expected, but sometimes Lisa caught her daughter looking sad and knew she was missing her friends from Sunday school and children's choir. 3 months after leaving Grace Community Church, Lisa felt like she was barely keeping her head above water. She was working more hours than ever but falling further behind on bills. Sophie needed new school clothes, and Lisa wasn't sure how she was going to afford them. It was during this difficult time that Lisa took on a new house cleaning job in the wealthy part of town. The client was supposed to be a businessman who traveled frequently and needed someone reliable to maintain his home. Lisa had no idea that this job would change their lives forever. The address Mrs. Coleman from the cleaning agency had given. Lisa was in Riverside Hills, the fanciest neighborhood in the city. As Lisa drove her old car up the winding streets lined with massive houses, she felt a familiar mix of awe and intimidation. These were the kinds of homes she cleaned every weekend, houses that cost more than she would make in 10 lifetimes. The house at 1247 Oak Ridge Drive was impressive, but not flashy. It was a beautiful colonial-style home with a well-maintained garden and a circular driveway. Lisa parked her car near the side entrance, as she always did when cleaning houses. She had learned early on that clients preferred when service people stayed, out of sight of the main areas. Mrs. Coleman had told her that the client was a businessman named Mr. Chen who traveled frequently and needed someone reliable to maintain his home. He's very particular about his house, Mrs. Coleman had warned. But he pays well and on time. Don't mess this up, Lisa. Lisa gathered her cleaning supplies from the trunk of her car. She had invested in good equipment over the years, even when money was tight. Professional-grade vacuum cleaner, quality cleaning products, microfiber cloths that wouldn't leave streaks. Her supplies might have cost more than some people's monthly grocery budget, but they were essential for doing the job right. The key was hidden exactly where Mrs. Coleman said it would be, under a decorative rock near the back door. Lisa let herself in and immediately felt the difference between this house and others she had cleaned. Most wealthy homes felt cold and impersonal, like museum displays, but this house felt warm and lived in, despite being impeccably clean. The kitchen was spacious but not overly fancy. There were family photos on the refrigerator, and a coffee mug in the sink that someone had clearly used that morning. Lisa noticed a book about woodworking on the counter and reading glasses folded next to it. Small details that told her this wasn't just a show house but a real home where someone actually lived. Lisa started with the kitchen as she always did. She worked systematically, cleaning the appliances, wiping down all surfaces and mopping the floor until it gleamed. She had developed a routine over the years that ensured she didn't miss anything important. As she moved through the house, Lisa was struck by how thoughtfully everything was arranged. The furniture was expensive but comfortable looking. There were books everywhere, not just for decoration but clearly being read. The family photos showed a man with kind eyes at various stages of his life, sometimes alone, sometimes with what appeared to be adult children and grandchildren. What impressed Lisa most was that despite the house being large and luxurious, it didn't feel pretentious. This wasn't someone who was trying to show off their wealth. This was someone who had money but didn't feel the need to prove it to anyone. Lisa was cleaning the living room when she heard a car in the driveway. She glanced at her watch, surprised. Mrs. Coleman had told her that Mr. Chen was traveling this week and wouldn't be home. Lisa felt a moment of panic, wondering if she had gotten the schedule wrong. She heard the front door open and a man's voice calling out, "Hello? Anyone here?" Lisa quickly turned off her vacuum and called back, "I'm sorry, Mr. Chen, I'm Lisa from Coleman Cleaning Services. I didn't realize you were coming home today." "No problem at all," came the reply. "Don't mind me. I just came back early from my business trip." Lisa heard footsteps and then saw him for the first time. Mr. Chen appeared to be in his early 60s, with gray hair and the kind of smile that immediately put people at ease. He was wearing a simple button-down shirt and khakis. Nothing fancy, despite clearly being able to afford the best of everything. "Please, don't let me interrupt your work," he said. "I'll just be in my study catching up on some reading." Lisa nodded and went back to her cleaning, but she felt a bit self-conscious knowing the homeowner was there. Most of her clients made sure to be out of the house when she came to clean. They didn't want to deal with the disruption, and Lisa preferred it that way too. But as the morning went on, Mr. Chen seemed completely unbothered by her presence. When she was cleaning the hallway outside his study, she could hear him on phone calls that sounded like business matters. His voice was patient and respectful, even when he was clearly disagreeing with whoever was on the other end of the line. "I understand your position," she heard him say during one call, "but I think we need to consider how this decision affects the employees, not just the shareholders." Lisa found herself impressed by his tone. She had overheard plenty of phone conversations while cleaning houses, and most wealthy people spoke to others with an arrogance that made her uncomfortable. Mr. Chen sounded like he actually cared about people. Around noon, Lisa was cleaning the kitchen when Mr. Chen appeared with his empty coffee mug. "Would you like some coffee?" he asked. "I just made a fresh pot." Lisa was surprised by the offer. In 5 years of cleaning houses, no client had ever offered her coffee. "That's very kind of you, but I'm fine." "Thank you, though." "Are you sure? It's good coffee. I get it from a little roastery downtown." Lisa hesitated. She was actually quite tired, having worked an extra shift at the nursing home the night before to help cover for a co-worker who called in sick. The coffee did smell amazing. "Well, if you're sure it's no trouble," she said. "No trouble at all," Mr. Chen replied, already reaching for another mug. "I hate drinking coffee alone anyway." They sat at his kitchen island and Mr. Chen asked about her work at the cleaning service. Lisa found herself relaxing as they talked. He seemed genuinely interested in her answers and didn't talk down to her the way some clients did. "You do beautiful work," he said, looking around the kitchen. "I've had several cleaning services over the years, but none of them paid attention to details the way you do." "Thank you," Lisa said, feeling proud. "I believe if you're going to do a job, you should do it right." "That's a good philosophy," Mr. Chen agreed. "I wish more people thought that way." As they talked, Lisa mentioned that she also worked at a nursing home during the week. Mr. Chen's eyes lit up with interest. "That must be rewarding work," he said. "My father spent his last years in a care facility. The staff there made such a difference in his quality of life." "It can be hard sometimes," Lisa admitted, "but I love making a difference for the residents. They have so many interesting stories to tell." Mr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. "It takes a special person to do that kind of work. The pay probably isn't what it should be either." Lisa laughed, but not with much humor. "That's definitely true. But you do what you have to do to take care of your family." "You have children?" Mr. Chen asked. "A daughter," Lisa said, her face lighting up the way it always did when she talked about Sophie. "She's 9 years old and the smartest kid I know. She's incredible at math and loves to read." "She sounds wonderful," Mr. Chen said. "It must be challenging working 2 jobs and raising a daughter." Lisa shrugged. "We make it work. Sophie's worth all the hard work in the world." Something in her voice must have told Mr. Chen that there was more to the story. But he didn't push. Instead, he asked about Sophie's interest and what grade she was in. Lisa found herself talking more than she had planned, telling him about Sophie's love of books and her talent for solving math problems that kids her age weren't supposed to understand yet. "She wants to be a scientist when she grows up," Lisa said proudly. "She's always asking questions about how things work." "Smart kids need good opportunities," Mr. Chen said quietly. "I hope she gets all the chances she deserves." There was something in his tone that made Lisa look at him more carefully. He seemed to be thinking about something deeper than their casual conversation. After Lisa finished her coffee, she went back to work. But she noticed that Mr. Chen seemed to be observing her as she cleaned. Not in a creepy way, but more like he was studying how she approached her work. Lisa had always taken pride in her attention to detail. She didn't just clean surfaces. She organized items thoughtfully, watered plants that looked thirsty, and even straightened books on shelves. It wasn't part of her job description, but she couldn't help herself. If something needed doing and she could do it, why wouldn't she? When she was cleaning the guest bathroom, she noticed that one of the towels had a small stain that regular washing hadn't removed. Lisa had a trick she had learned from her grandmother for getting out stubborn stains. She spent an extra 10 minutes treating the towel until the stain was completely gone. Later, as she was finishing up in the living room, Mr. Chen appeared again. "Lisa, can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course." "The towel in the guest bathroom, did you do something special to it? It looks brand new." Lisa felt a bit embarrassed. "I noticed it had a stain that wasn't coming out with regular washing. I hope you don't mind, but I used a little trick my grandmother taught me to remove it." Mr. Chen stared at her for a moment. "You spent your own time fixing something that wasn't really broken, just because you thought it could be better?" "Well, yes," Lisa said, unsure if she had done something wrong. "I mean, it only took a few minutes, and now the towel looks perfect again." Mr. Chen smiled, but it was a different kind of smile than before. More thoughtful, more serious. "That tells me everything I need to know about what kind of person you are," he said. Lisa wasn't sure what he meant by that, but something about the way he said it made her think this conversation was more important than it seemed. As she packed up her cleaning supplies, Mr. Chen asked if she would be coming back next week. "If you're happy with my work," Lisa said. "More than happy," he replied. "I think this is going to be a very good arrangement." Driving home that afternoon, Lisa felt better than she had in months. Mr. Chen had been kind and respectful, and he clearly appreciated good work when he saw it. Maybe this new client would provide the stable income she needed to get caught up on bills. She had no idea that Mr. Chen had spent the afternoon thinking about her situation and making some phone calls of his own. She had no way of knowing that her simple act of fixing a stained towel had shown him exactly the kind of character he had been looking for. Most importantly, she couldn't have imagined that her life was about to change in ways she never could have dreamed possible. Lisa had been cleaning Mr. Chen's house for 3 weeks when the first unexpected phone call came. It was a Tuesday evening, and she was helping Sophie with her math homework at their small kitchen table when the phone rang. "Is this Lisa Martinez?" The voice on the other end asked. "Yes, this is Lisa. My name is Dr. Williams, and I'm the admissions director at Riverside Academy. I'm calling about your daughter, Sophie." Lisa's heart skipped a beat. Riverside Academy was the most prestigious private school in the city, the kind of place where wealthy families sent their children. Lisa had driven past it many times, admiring the beautiful campus with its brick buildings and perfectly maintained grounds. "I think you might have the wrong number," Lisa said. "We've never applied to Riverside Academy. Actually, Sophie was recommended to us by someone who was very impressed with her academic potential," Dr. Williams explained. "We'd like to offer her a full scholarship for the upcoming school year." Lisa sat down heavily in her chair. "I'm sorry, I don't understand. Who recommended her?" "The scholarship is provided by an anonymous donor who believes in supporting exceptional students," Dr. Williams said. "The scholarship covers tuition, books, uniforms, and even after-school tutoring programs. Would you and Sophie like to visit the campus this week?" Lisa looked at Sophie, who was watching her with curious eyes. "Can I call you back tomorrow? I need to think about this." "Of course," Dr. Williams said, "but I should mention that spots like this don't come along very often. Sophie's test scores and academic record are truly impressive." After Lisa hung up, Sophie asked what the call was about. "Someone wants to give you a scholarship to a really good school," Lisa said, still trying to process what had just happened. "What's a scholarship?" Sophie asked. "It means they pay for everything so you can go to school there for free," Lisa explained. Sophie's eyes widened. "Why would they do that?" "I honestly don't know, sweetheart," Lisa said. "But maybe we should go look at the school and see what it's all about." The visit to Riverside Academy was like stepping into a different world. The science laboratories had equipment that Sophie had only seen in books. The library was 3 stories tall with more books than Lisa had ever seen in one place. The art studios had supplies that cost more than Lisa's monthly grocery budget. Dr. Williams showed them around personally, and Lisa could see Sophie's excitement growing with every classroom they visited. When they stopped by the advanced mathematics class, Sophie watched in fascination as students worked on problems that looked impossibly complex. "We have a special program for students who show exceptional talent in mathematics and science," Dr. Williams told them. Sophie would fit right in. After the tour, Lisa found herself in Dr. Williams's office looking at paperwork that seemed too good to be true. "Are you absolutely sure there are no hidden costs?" Lisa asked for the 3rd time. "None at all," Dr. Williams assured her. "The donor was very specific about that. They want to remove every possible barrier to Sophie's education." Lisa signed the papers with shaking hands, still unable to believe that something this wonderful was happening to them. 2 days later, another unexpected call came. This time it was from Morrison Medical Group, the practice that had been treating Sophie's asthma. "Ms. Martinez, I have some good news," the receptionist said. "Your account has been paid in full by a charitable foundation. All of Sophie's past bills and future treatments are covered." Lisa stared at the phone. "I don't understand. What charitable foundation?" "The documentation just says it's an anonymous donor who covers medical expenses for families in need," the receptionist explained. "You don't owe anything, and Sophie's inhaler prescriptions are covered indefinitely." Lisa hung up the phone feeling dizzy. First the school scholarship, now the medical bills. These couldn't be coincidences. The 3rd call came on Friday morning while Lisa was getting ready for work at the nursing home. It was from Valley Industries, one of the largest companies in the city. "Ms. Martinez, this is Jennifer from Human Resources at Valley Industries. We have a position opening in our employee wellness program that we think might interest you." "I'm sorry, but I never applied for a job at Valley Industries," Lisa said. "You were recommended by someone who was familiar with your work experience," Jennifer explained. "The position involves helping employees navigate work-life balance challenges and connecting them with resources they need. Your background in healthcare and your personal experience overcoming difficulties make you a perfect candidate." Lisa's mind was racing. What kind of salary are we talking about? When Jennifer told her the number, Lisa had to sit down. It was more than she made from both her current jobs combined, plus health insurance, paid vacation time, and a retirement plan. "When would you like to come in for an interview?" Jennifer asked. "As soon as possible," Lisa said, her voice shaking. The interview at Valley Industries went better than Lisa could have hoped. The hiring manager, Mrs. Foster, seemed genuinely interested in Lisa's experience and her perspective on helping people through difficult situations. "Your background is exactly what we're looking for," Mrs. Foster said. "Someone who understands what it's like to struggle and can connect with employees who are facing challenges." Lisa got the job on the spot. That weekend, Lisa sat down with Sophie to talk about all the changes happening in their lives. "Mom, why are all these good things happening to us?" Sophie asked. Lisa had been wondering the same thing. "I think someone is helping us, sweetheart. Someone who wants to see you succeed. But who?" Lisa thought about the past few weeks. The only new person in their lives was Mr. Chen. Could it be possible that the kind man whose house she cleaned was behind all of this? On Monday, when Lisa arrived at Mr. Chen's house for her regular cleaning appointment, she decided to ask him directly. "Mr. Chen, can I talk to you about something?" she said as he was reading his morning paper in the kitchen. "Of course, Lisa, what's on your mind?" Lisa took a deep breath. Sophie got a scholarship to Riverside Academy. All her medical bills were paid by an anonymous donor. And I got offered a job at Valley Industries that pays more than I ever dreamed of making. These things don't just happen by coincidence. Mr. Chen set down his newspaper and looked at her with those kind eyes she had grown to trust. "You're right," he said simply. "They don't happen by coincidence." Lisa felt tears starting to form. Why would you do all this for us?" Mr. Chen stood up and walked to the window, looking out at his garden. "Lisa, I've been successful in business for 40 years. I've made more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. But do you know what's harder to find than money?" "What?" "Character," he said, turning back to face her. "People who care more about doing the right thing than about what they can get for themselves. People who go the extra mile even when no one is watching. People who raise their children to be kind and smart and hardworking despite facing incredible challenges." Lisa wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "That day you spent your own time fixing a stained towel in my guest bathroom," Mr. Chen continued. "You showed me everything I needed to know about who you are. And when you talked about Sophie, I could see the love and determination in your eyes. That's when I knew what? That you and Sophie deserved a chance to show the world what you're capable of," Mr. Chen said. "I didn't give you these opportunities, Lisa. I just removed the barriers that were keeping you from reaching your potential." Lisa was crying openly now. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me," Mr. Chen said. "Just keep being the person you are. Raise Sophie to be proud of where she comes from and excited about where she's going. And maybe someday, when you're in a position to help someone else, you'll remember how it felt to receive kindness when you needed it most." Lisa started her new job at Valley Industries the following Monday. The work was challenging but rewarding, and she discovered that she had a real talent for helping people navigate difficult situations. Her colleagues respected her perspective and often sought her advice. Sophie thrived at Riverside Academy. Her teachers were amazed by her mathematical abilities, and she made friends with other students who shared her love of learning. For the first time in her life, Sophie was surrounded by people who celebrated her intelligence instead of making her feel different. 6 months later, Lisa received an unexpected visitor at her new office. Pastor Johnson was standing in the lobby of Valley Industries looking nervous and out of place. "Lisa, I hope you don't mind me coming here," he said when the receptionist brought him to her office. "I wanted to talk to you." "Of course, Pastor Johnson. Please sit down." He looked around her professional office with its view of the city skyline. "I heard about your new job and Sophie's scholarship. I wanted to congratulate you." "Thank you," Lisa said politely. Pastor Johnson shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Lisa, I also wanted to apologize. What happened at Rachel's wedding was wrong. The way my family treated you was wrong. I should have stood up for you." Lisa studied his face. She could see that he was genuinely sorry, but she also knew that his apology was coming 6 months too late. "I appreciate you saying that, Pastor Johnson," she said, "but honestly, I'm grateful for what happened." He looked surprised. "Grateful? If your family hadn't rejected me that day, I might never have left Grace Community Church," Lisa explained. "I might never have taken the cleaning job that led me to meet Mr. Chen. Sophie might never have gotten the opportunities she has now." Lisa stood up and walked to her window, looking out at the city below. "I spent 8 years trying to prove that I belonged in your church," she continued. I thought if I worked hard enough and volunteered enough, people would accept me despite being a single mother. But I was looking for acceptance in the wrong place. She turned back to face Pastor Johnson. Mr. Chen didn't care about my circumstances or my past mistakes. He saw my character and my potential. He saw Sophie's intelligence and wanted to help her succeed. That's what real acceptance looks like. Pastor Johnson nodded slowly. You're right. And I'm sorry it took losing you for me to realize how wrong we were. I forgive you, Lisa said, and she meant it. But I won't be coming back to Grace Community Church. After Pastor Johnson left, Lisa thought about how much had changed in less than a year. She had gone from feeling worthless and rejected to feeling valued and hopeful. Sophie was excelling in school and making plans for college. They had a secure future and genuine peace of mind for the first time in years. That evening, Lisa picked up Sophie from her after-school science club at Riverside Academy. As they drove home to their new apartment in a safe neighborhood, Sophie chattered excitedly about her chemistry experiment. Mom, did you know that you can make invisible ink using lemon juice? Sophie said. We're going to test it with heat tomorrow to see if the writing appears. That sounds amazing, sweetheart, Lisa said, smiling at her daughter's enthusiasm. I love my new school, Sophie said. And I love that we don't have to worry about money anymore. Me too, Lisa agreed. As they pulled into their parking space, Sophie asked the question that had been on her mind for weeks. Mom, do you think we'll ever see Mr. Chen again? Lisa smiled. I hope so, honey. I'd like to tell him how proud I am of the young woman you're becoming. I'd like to thank him, Sophie said, for believing in us when other people didn't. Lisa reached over and squeezed her daughter's hand. The most important thing Mr. Chen taught us is that there are good people in the world who will help you if you work hard and stay true to yourself. And someday when we're able to help someone else the way he helped us, we'll pass that kindness forward. As they walked toward their apartment building, Lisa reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. The rejection that had felt like the end of the world had actually been the beginning of a new and better life. Sometimes, she realized losing people who don't truly value you makes room for finding people who do.